Do you know what the only thing better than an orc walker is? A bigger orc walker. You know what the only thing better than a bigger orc walker is? An even bigger orc walker.
Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Faster. I'm Big Stompy.
That's right. Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Faster. I'm old Big Mek, and we're trying something a little new today. You see, I got a fancy gubbins thing here. I know that my audio has been wonky in some of the past videos, and so we did a little upgrade. So I'm trying not to project and yell like I normally do, because this little guy is supposed to pick it up well. So let me know how things are down in the comments below. All right. Getting into the actual video now, it's time to talk about Dread Mob. Those of you that have been around know that I've been covering all of the new detachments that are in the 10th edition Orc Codex, doing kind of a deep dive into them. We've looked at Green Tide and the Speed Freaks one, and the Bully Boys, and now we are looking at Dread Mob, which is specifically about, well, dreads, orc walkers. What I've been doing with these deep dives is really taking a look at what the special rule is for the detachment, what the enhancements are, what the stratagems are, how they work with each unit, and kind of come up with a pretty decent, I would think, 2,000 point army build with which to start going out there and crumping your enemies with. This one definitely has captured the imagination of Big Meks everywhere, because who doesn't want a Dread Mob? All right, so before we get into it, if you haven't seen any of those deep dives and want to check them out, definitely click on the main channel, do a subscribe, and go check out those videos. I have a whole line of videos on specifically the 10th edition rules for the orcs. You can go back and watch all of them and get a better idea of these detachments, because they're all really good. I think they all have a place and a way to play them. And that's why we've been dedicating a video to each and every single one. All right, that out of the way, let's do a little history lesson. All the way back in 2nd edition, which was the first real kind of edition of 40k. Rogue Trader was very much an RPG. 2nd edition was the first tabletop war game. The Orcs were one of the two factions in the starter box. It was actually Space Marines versus Orcs. I believe the cover art was all Blood Angels. I honestly can't remember, because it's been so many decades now. I think the models were a little bit more generic. You didn't have to play them as Blood Angels, but I could be wrong. But anyways, on the Orc side, it was really interesting. You got a bunch of Gretchen that had these huge blasters. They were kind of funny. And a bunch of boys and a cardboard Death Dread. And the funny thing is, there's no mention of the cardboard one anywhere in the codex. All of the pictures feature the full meal deal, real Death Dread, which back in those days was full metal. This thing, if you threw that at your opponent, you'd probably put them in a coma at the bare minimum. But yeah, the starter set came with this cardboard cutout. It is still a legal Games Workshop model to this day. There's definitely some people out there that still run it, mostly as a meme thing. I've seen some really amazing conversions that have like the real Dread base size, and then they have the cardboard Death Dread, and then they've got like a bunch of grots behind it, and there's like a wood scaffolding behind it, and they're like holding it up, and it's got like holes blown through it and stuff as they're pretending to be a Death Dread. It's awesome. I unfortunately do not have my cardboard one. In fact, I don't have any of my 2nd edition orcs. They all, well, besides Gazgul, they all disappeared in throughout the years. If I ever got my hands on one of those, I would definitely add it to the collection, because it is just so fun. But anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is that Dread Mobs and Death Dreads and Killicans and Walkers and Clankers and Stompas and things have always been a deep part of Orc lore, history, and gameplay, which is why this detachment in particular coming back to be a full Walker army is such a big deal to old school Orky mechs like me, because we were there for editions and editions and editions where you could take either an entirely Walker army or a very much mostly Walker army, and they were always so thematic and so fun. And so to get that back, especially in the way they wrote it, these are my favorite rules as far as orkiness goes in the whole codex, and that's a pretty high bar on this one. And what do I mean by orkiness and rules? Well, back in the day, you had to roll a lot of d6s to figure out what exactly orcs actually did. They were very, very random, which was a lot of fun. It also made them not very overpowering. I mean, if you really rolled hot dice and had all these sixes, you'd, really go and crump your enemy. But that was highly unlikely to happen. And it was just as likely that your dice would go cold and you'd get all these ones and twos and just plaster yourself. And it was just a hilariously good time. It was very orky. Like, you didn't know, you pulled the pin on that hand grenade and threw it. You didn't know if it was going to blow up the enemy or blow up you or do whatever. And so those results charts were such a big deal. And we're getting that back in this detachment. All right, so first things first, the Dread Mob Detachment, it's entirely about walkers, specifically orc walkers. A lot of their rules do apply to Grot vehicles too, and then of course they took away the little Grot mini tanks that we did a whole bunch of videos on back in the day. But you know what, that's okay. They're Forge World units. As fun as they were and stuff, you're never really going to use those in a tournament anyway. But you do get to use all your Killicans, all your Death Dreads, all your Gorkanauts, all your Morkanauts, and even your big Stompy all get to use this because they're all walkers, which is really, really cool. And what the detachment rule is called try that button, and you roll a d6, and it's every time you shoot or attack. And on a 1 or 2, you get a sustained hit. On a 3 or 4, you get a lethal hit. On a 5 or 6, every critical hit gets an extra 2 to the armor penetration. So if you already have AP -1, you're now AP -3. If you already had AP -2, now you're AP -4. Or you could pick your result, but then you get to take a hazardous test afterwards. So if you really wanted to push it and test your luck and maybe take some damage, it was totally worth it to pick what you want. Now, I have seen the best conversions, you want to call them, about this detachment. You know those Trouble, right? The kids game, it's got the little dice popper cubey thingy in the middle. You smack it and the little D6 inside rolls. You can get those dice poppers by themselves. In fact, I'll throw a link down in the description below. They're super cheap. But you can get just one plain D6 and a popper to pop and play for little kids that, play board games, and so they don't lose their die, right? Well, orc players being orc players, we immediately bought those and glued a bunch of gubbins to them and painted them up and made them orky so that you literally have to try that button every time you want to use this rule, which is the absolute best. I will totally be doing that myself, even if I never actually play this detachment in a game. Just the idea of having it is really, really fun. So we'll do a whole video on that, but there's already going to be a link down in the description to get yourself one of those dice poppers so that you can build along with us when we do that video very soon. And when you get into the enhancements, of course, orcs being orcs, if one is good, 2 must be better. So there is a Does It Fasta, which is where you get to try the button twice. And if you get 2 different results, you get to keep both results. If you get the same result the second time, you get it once, but it doesn't double up or anything like that. And so you've got, a 60% shot at getting, or 66% shot at getting a different roll on that second one. So one of your units definitely gets to use that, which you have to use. How can you not use that? You have to use that. Other ones aren't quite as good. Smoky Gubbins gives you stealth. Get Find a Goggles ignores cover. That one could be decent. But they all can only go on a mech. Luckily, in this edition, they gave the mech keyword to the Big Meks. The keywords have had a lot of issues, especially coming into 10th edition. If it is a 2-word keyword, you have to have both words. So for example, Big Meks were just Big Mek. They didn't have mech also. And now they have gone and added in the regular mech also so that these particular enhancements apply to them. And that's good. I'm glad they're paying attention to it, but it does mean that you still have some keyword wonkiness here or there. But anyways, the other really good enhancement is called Super Glowing. And it's you roll a d6, so use your little button again. On a 1 to 2, the enemy unit is battle shocked. On a 3 to 4, they take d3 mortals. On a 5 to 6, they are -1 on their wounds or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, it does things to the enemy unit when you are attacked. It's got some defensive value. For me, though, the enhancement is definitely about does it faster. Getting to hit that button twice, you definitely want to load that up on your best unit. And so for our idealized army build, obviously, we're going to take a Big Mek. I'm going to go with a Big Mek with a shock attack gun and stick him in a unit of mech guns, 3 of them. I prefer bubble chuckas, but use whatever weapon on the mech gun you desire, or even a mix of them is totally cool. But you definitely want the Big Mek with shock attack gun leading that unit, and you want to give him that enhancement so that you can roll twice for that unit all the time. And so that is your field of main fire. And then there's a lot of strats that you can use with this detachment in order to make sure that those guns actually really do damage when they hit. You can, there's a shooter one where you get bigger bullets for bigger gets or something like that. It's +1 to wound on your shots, or you could push it and get +1 damage as well in exchange for a hazardous test. So there's all these different strats where you can push and it adds hazardous, but you do get extra material or extra abilities out of it. And that's, again, it's a big throwback to those older orc rules where you didn't really know what you were going to get. In this case, you know that you're going to get a bigger effect, but it's going to come at the cost of maybe doing some damage to yourself. So yeah, it's really, really good. The one thing about this detachment that makes it very different from all the others is it's the only one that moves a data sheet. Now, what am I talking about? Way back in the day, we had this thing called the Force Organization Chart. This. What it was is when you built your army, this is how you did it. We didn't have detachments. Everything was just in the codex. You just ran an orc army. And then you had a mandatory 1 HQ and 2 troops. You were allowed up to 6 troop squads, 3 fast attack, 3 heavy support, 3 elite, and only 2 HQs. You also couldn't have more than 1 of any character. So this really kept it from being Hero Hammer and was very much about armies. Now with the detachments, all of this has gone away. You still have characters and you still have other data sheets, but now you can take 3 of all of your unnamed characters, and if you wanted to take a whole bunch of heavy support units, you could. It's still 3 per unit, but you're not limited to the 3 to the army total. The one thing that they did kind of carry over from this, though, was called Battle Line. In Battle Line, you can have 6 copies of that data sheet in your army instead of 3. Normal orcs can only take regular boys and beast snagga boys as Battle Line. In Dread Mob, you can take Gretchen too. Now, I hear you asking, why would you want to do that? They're stinky, filthy grots. They're useless. Why would you want to take more than 3 of them? Well, thematically and lore-wise, it makes sense. Usually when you had dread mobs and mechs building lots of things, they have a whole bunch of grots running around maintaining it, right? They've got all the little oil cans and the little welding squigs and things like that. So having a lot of grots makes sense. From a gameplay perspective, the grots, they're going to hold down those backfield objectives. They're going to kind of keep things from sneaking up on your army while your walkers are clanking there. They're going to provide a screen that the enemy has to chew through. So definitely taking advantage of that and taking a bunch of big squads of Gretchen is going to be really good in this detachment. Not only that, there's actually a stratagem just for them about being sneaky runts where if they get within engagement range of an enemy, you can roll a d6, and on a 4+, you do d3 plus with mortals, and you can run away from them as you're doing it. It's really sneaky, really thematic. You kind of bomb the enemy and run away. Very, very orky. So yeah, again, just the flavor of this detachment is so good. And I think that that's what I love so much about this codex, is that flavor has come back in most of these detachments. In fact, everything I've looked at so far has been really flavorful. And Dread Mob is no different. All right, so we've started talking about the army a little bit. I obviously said that I would take the Big Mek with shock attack gun and some Met guns to kind of lay down your base field of fire. And then we talked about taking a bunch of grots. In fact, I would do 4 squads of 20 of those Gretchen. It's only 80 points a squad. That's very cheap on the points. That's a lot of ability to make some CP, which you're going to need because the strats are really, really good in this detachment. And I would take a Zodgrod Wartsnaga too, just so that you could have 1 squad of them be kind of super grots and really mess with the enemy plans up forward. So you definitely want to keep 1 squad in your backfield to keep anything from deep striking or getting within your army, and then have kind of 2 in the midfield and 1 moving up the center. The other thing I would do is I would take a Big Mek in Mega Armor. I know that sounds a little weird, but hear me out. You take a Big Mek in Mega Armor, you give him a squad of 5 Mega Knobs with their shooting weapons, and you stick them in a Morkanaut. You could take a Gorkanaut too. I think I like the Morkanaut for this one, but I could definitely see a case either way. But you remember, this guy transports. You don't need to take a battle wagon. You could take a walker that still gets all of the good bonuses from the actual detachment rule and the enhancements and the stratagems, and also happens to carry your squad. So I would carry my Big Mek in Mega Armor with his squad in here, and yeah, really have some fun with that. I'd also put that super glowing enhancement on him so that you can do that battle shock or mortal wounds kind of thing. Would be a lot of fun. And remember, the Big Mek, he's going to give an invulnerable save to those Mega Knobs, and he's going to bring them back to life, and he's got the little grot that, you know, can bring even more back to life. They're going to be really, really hard to delete. So once your Morkanaut kind of gets up there, you pop these guys out and you just kind of hold that center objective for eternity. It's very orky and I love it. And Morkanaut here would definitely do some damage in the game. The other thing you want to do is make sure you take a regular mech, a little teeny tiny mech boy. They still do the repair wounds on your vehicles and also give them +1 to hit. So obviously everything on Morkanaut here hitting on 4s instead of 5s is going to be huge. So definitely you will keep a mech following him around. Funnily enough, regular mechs can lead a couple of squads, and I realized that Ludas are really good at this. They're only 50 points for 5 of them. For 50 points, to have a screening squad to help keep that mech boy alive that's following the Morkanaut around. Because remember, he can't use his ability if he's inside of it. He's got to be outside. So giving him a unit to chew through, and then even once the unit's gone, as long as he stays within 3 inches of that vehicle, he's got lone operative, so he can't be targeted unless you have precision. So it gives an extra layer of things to shoot through, and it gives you an opportunity to pot shot, with these Ludas, especially once you kind of stop. They can stay still and hit on 5s instead of 6s. But I think that it's worth it just for 50 points to give 1 screening unit of Ludas. And in fact, actually what I would do is I would put the Luda unit in the back with the mech that's by the Met guns. It gives you another thing to fire with. Again, they get to shoot on 5s. Their mech that's leading them can heal the Met guns. All that good gravy stuff. And of course, the Big Mek with shock attack gun, letting them re-roll their hits. It's at least re-rolling 1s. I think there's the special rule about hitting the closest thing, I think, is the other ones. But anyways, they get to reroll their 1s. So yeah, so you've got the Morkanaut going forward, you've got the Met guns in the back, you've got your grot spread everywhere. You're like, all right, what else do we take? Well, obviously, more walkers, as many walkers as you can take. 3x3 kilocans, I think, is a must. I think every army should start with that. I would take rocket launches on all of them. The kilocans are the only thing that have decent shooting in the army native to begin with. So you definitely want to give them something that has some shots that can do some damage and like a lot of shots out of it. Giving them the short range, the little grot bazooka thing that's only 18 inches isn't very good. The Scorch is even worse. Again, you're wasting your good ballistic skill here. Take the rocket launcher. So I do 3x3 of these with the rockets. You can have a mech boy follow them around, but remember that the mech boy is per model, not per unit. So if he's following a unit of 3 of these and he does the heal thing, it's only going to make 1 of them hit better. That's why really you want 1 mech boy up with the guns so that 1 gun can shoot better, and you want the mech boy with the Morkanaut so at least the Morkanaut can shoot better. He's got a lot more guns than 1 rocket launcher, Get what you pay for. finally, I would round out my 2K army with 2 Def Dreads. I would do the classic 3 claws plus a Scorcha on each Def Dread, and definitely move them up the field to mow some things down. Again, you can have them surrounded by 40 grots to soak up fire and keep the enemy from really getting to them until you have a chance to get them into combat. That would be my ideal army for kind of actual competitive play. If I was playing for fun, though, or playing against another Orc player, I would take a Stompa. Now, obviously, Big Stompa here is, well, seen better days, but I picked him up used from a giant lot from somebody getting out of Orkdom many, many years ago, and I haven't ever actually had the chance to glue him together and fix all his little things and paint him in the colors of my army. Obviously, he's very bad moony right now, and that's not what my army looks like, as you see by Mr. Gorky Morky Not here, who is my classic red. The red ones go faster with the orange trim. So I definitely need to change this up to match. So if you want to see that, definitely click the subscribe button so you don't miss the video series that we'll do on restoring the Stompa now that everybody has a Stompa and needs to paint it. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Tell me what you think. Were there any hidden combos that I'm missing? Is there anything that you really want to try? Is there a meme list that you really want to do? Kind of like how I want to take a Stompa. Is it just 2 Stompas? I think 2 Stompas is pretty good. We can do 2 Stompas, right? It's very orky. I just love it. And again, that whole push the button dice rolly thing, link down in the description below. Get yours. We'll be doing a video on it. We can convert them all together. If you're in our Discord, keep an eyeball out. We'll be doing an event for that, actually. Our Discord server is completely free. If you want to join, there's a link in the description. Just join up. You don't have to be on Patreon or anything like that. But we're going to be doing, anybody that buys that, we'll do all of our conversions together and kind of have like a little celebration about it. So definitely check that out on Discord. Now, if you'd like to support old Big Mek any further and help me with things like getting these microphones and other upgrades so that we can make better videos, I'd really appreciate it. We have a Patreon that is doing quite well. Many, many thanks to all my patrons, some of whom have been around for almost a year now, since we launched this channel for real back in June of last year. And it's been really, really an honor to have all of you. I also have YouTube channel memberships, and they're both the same price. They're both just 5 teeth, which is the lowest you can make it. I'm very big about saving money on this channel and doing things as cheap as possible, and I don't like to paywall things, but I definitely appreciate any extra help you guys want to give, and the rewards are the same whether you're a YouTube channel member or a patron, so whichever way you're more comfortable with will totally work. What that gets you is access to Big Mek's personal gubbin service, which is where you can buy official Games Workshop bits by the ounce, either unsorted or sorted specifically for what you're after, whether it's just random orc bits or you're specifically wanting, vehicle parts or Gene Stealer Cult or, Imperial Guard, whatever it is. You tell me what you're looking for, and I can get you specialized bits. I'm also working on a decal service. Old Big Mek is producing his own decals. I'll have regular ones for sale for everybody, but if you want custom ones made with your own artwork, or you want Old Big Mek to do your artwork for you, I can draw up some custom decals and print them and make them and send them to you so that you can cut out your own waterslide decals and have your own design on your orcs or whatever army you do. And so those are kind of some of the perks that you get for being a patron or a YouTube member for The Red Ones Go Fasta. All right, that's going to do it for this video. I need to get to work painting some more walkers, and you need to get to work getting your stuff built so that you can paint yours as well, so that next time we can walk on together. Ha 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 ha.